So now we talk about user-defined functions. So we have seen many examples of user-defined functions uh, in this course. So let's have a formal introduction uh, to user-defined functions. So user-defined functions are obviously the functions which are written by you. So it is not. This is the format of a function. Basically, I mean user-defined function. Uh, this is a function name, and there will be an argument list, and there will be a return type. So the return type is a data type returned by the function. Default seems to be an integer. I mean this I need to check once. So this is written in all the books. So I think the default type is an integer, but it can also be a void if nothing is to be written. Like you can use the main function, right? There can be int main and some arguments, and um, there can be void main. So in case of void main, you don't need to return anything explicitly. So like I mentioned before, int void basically main is called by the system, uh, but in this case you are writing a function of your own. So a function may or may not have any arguments. The function may or may not have any return values. If it does, it can have it can return maximum one value per se. So if it is of the basic data type, but there are other ways of returning, returning multiple values uh, from a function. If you use an object, for example, or if you use um, a structure where you can have multiple variables, that way you can do. But if you are going to use a particular a basic data type, a C function doesn't give you the provision of returning more than one value. So why are functions so important? So it seems that the user defined type, sorry, the user defined functions form a very important part of the C programming language, because it gives you the functionality of basically top down modular programming. So what is modular programming? So let's take an example of a program which I set as a question in the class test. So let's take the example of reversing a number. So you see that there are two two submodules which you need to take care of. One is basically reversing the number. So you can pass a number to a function, and the function can return you the reverse number, right? And there can be another submodule which checks whether a number is a palindrome or not. So you see that if you think that the whole problem can be divided into some sub problems, basically if you can identify these sub problems in the whole problem, then your task becomes easier. Why does it become easier? Because then you can logically divide the program into some sub parts, and if there is an error, you can check each sub part separately, as opposed to writing the whole code within main. You can write sub programs in functions. So the idea is decomposition of bigger problems into smaller problems, and after you get solution from these submodules, there is a process called basically recomposition from basically the smaller solutions. So in your example, suppose you write a function which can take a number as an argument, and it returns. So it takes the number as an argument. It basically reverses it, and it returns the. Returns to the point where it has been called. For example, suppose it is called in main. It returns it to main. So the calling of that function. So basically, breaking the whole function in main into uh, first. Basically, you can read it from the user, and then you can break the problem into a sub problem, which is basically reversing the number. So that is the part of basically decomposition of the problem. And then when the function which is doing the reversing part, that when that function is returning the reversed value, that is a part of basically the recomposition. So I will give you more examples. It is supposed to help in simplification of the complex logic. So this is a very simple program, right? The programs can be extremely complex, and it can have many modules. For example, since I told you that I worked in some industry before joining to ISAR. So there there can there can be clients which can give the industry some project, right? Some which basically needs to be delivered after some period of time. So that can have multiple sub modules. So the whole program can be broken down into multiple modules. For example, you want to design a railway reservation system, and there is one interface part, right? There is one a part where you store the information about all the trains. There can be a part which calculates the total price of the ticket, for example. So it may not be possible for a single person to write all the code, and even if it is possible, if he does that on his own, it's possible that the whole product won't be delivered after a certain period of time, because you cannot keep solving the problem forever, right? So it has to be delivered after a certain period of time. So for that purpose, the project head assigns different sub problems to many programmers, and after all the sub modules are done, there is a process which is called integration, or here the term is recomposition. So then the entire program, entire project comes into being by logically integrating or basically recomposing the sub components. So this is very important even from a software engineering point of view. Okay, and of course it is as I already mentioned, it is much easier to debug. So if there is an error, if you can decompose your program into small sub problems, or sub modules or functions, you can check each and every function individually for an error, because the error must be in basically one of the functions, right? So if you can identify the right function, then it boils down to correcting that particular function, and then it becomes the onus. So the basically the onus comes on the team which was responsible for that function. So they will do do some brainstorming to correct that portion, and after it is corrected, it can again be integrated. But there can be other problems, like there can be problems in integration itself, decomposition itself. But C gives you a very good functionality where there won't be any problem in recomposition, provided you have done everything correctly. Okay, so let's take some I mean, toy examples, just for the sake of completeness, I think many of you, I mean, know about this, but still. So, as I mentioned, that there can be no arguments and there can be no return values. So there is an example which simply prints this particular statement. So there is no argument and there is no return value. There can be a function which has arguments but no return value. It's also possible. So if you can pass an integer n to function2, uh, and this integer n basically prints something for n number of times. So I mean, integer n is used as a number of times a particular operation is performed. Here this operation is printing. That can be done. It may not have any argument but can have a return value. For example, this is a function which has a static variable. So it increments and it returns its value. So you can write something like this. So you can use a static variable to see how many times a function has been called or functionality has been called. So there can be functionalities on which you can set a count. And finally, there can be functions which has both arguments and a return value. So it is, reading n from main, and it is printing this particular line, and it is returning this particular value, n plus 1. So this is a very simple and basic example. This is a toy example just to cover all the four types. No argument, no return values. Argument but no return values. No argument but return value. Both argument and return value. So these are all possible. I'm not going into more details. I'm sure it is quite easy to understand. So this is just an execution. Function 1, it prints no arguments and no return. Function 2, basically it prints. So here, since the argument is 4, n is 4, means that it prints this particular line 4 times. Function 3, it prints the value of the static variable. So it is done in main. So I'm calling function 3. What is function 3? Function 3 is this one. So you can also do this. So since this function is returning a value, you can print it directly here. So function 3 will be returning a value, right? So here this function value will be 1 and it will print 1. Same for function 4. Function 4, I'm calling function 4 here. So it is basically incrementing n by 1 and then it is returning the value. So it is taking n as input and it is returning the incremented value incremented by 1. So that value is getting printed. So n was 4. Now it is printing 5 function. You see that as I mentioned that a particular so there is no default data type, right? There can be there can be auto type of variable, but there is no default data type. So if you don't mention the data type, the compiler has no way to understand what this variable is. So you have to mention to the function that it is a data type of this particular type. Okay, and these and these variables keep this in mind that these variables int n and int I in this case, these are all local variables, local to function 2. Okay, so these are created for this function and it is not accessible to any other function. Like I mentioned to you, local variables, I talked about this. So you see what is happening here. Here n is equal to 4 and I am passing that value of n here also. So here this value of n is getting passed to function 2. So there is another variable n which has the same name but it doesn't matter. This n is of function 2. So it reads 4 here, this 4, and it stores it in this particular variable. Okay, and this variable is getting used here. In this case, don't assume that this is the same n which is passed here. It is just the value of n which is passed here. and it is incrementing its value and it is sending it back. But you see that this variable is not getting changed. So okay, so it's better to show you what's happening. This is a very important part which I am going to cover soon when I talk about pointers. So there is something called passing by value, passing by reference, that I will do. There are a lot of things to be done, so I don't know how and when I'm going to cover so many things. So let me see, what was the code? Function, right? Let me see. Yes, this one maybe. Yeah. So let me do something. Let me see what happens here. Printf. So can you see this? So this is one important point. So see that n, in this case, n is 4, right? And in function 4, I have passed the value of n to here. So it receives n. So if you can print n here, okay. Okay, let's focus only on function 4. So let me comment this. So n equal to 4 in function 4. So function is something which has function 4 is something which has both arguments and a return value. Value is 5, which means n plus 1 is getting returned here, right? So value is 5 here because n plus 1 is returned, but that doesn't mean that this variable is getting changed. So here this n is not this n, I repeat, and incremented value of so this gets 4 and 4 gets incremented to 5 and that comes back here. So it's just the value which is getting incremented, but it has no effect on the variable which is in main. So the variable in main is getting printed here. So it is n equals to 4. So it is just a copy. So here n is a new variable and it is just getting the value of this variable. So separate memory location is there for this n and this n. So in this memory location there is 4 and in this memory location 4 gets copied. And that is and even this n is not changed. It is n plus 1. But there are ways of doing it. There are ways of changing the value of n, which I will discuss when I talk about pointers. So this is a very interesting part. Very interesting point. It's good that someone asked me. So this was about this. So remember that in any function, all the variables which are inside the scope of that function are local to that variable. So variables don't get shared across functions unless it is a global variable, right? So for local variables, it is just for the function in which it is declared. Okay. So I was talking about modular programming. So I will give you a task which you should do at home and come back to me in the next class. So as I see that many of you have already done it, and I'm sure that they have some knowledge of programming, if not C programming, but I suspect that they know C programming quite well. Not for them, for the people who have not done this in the exam, for the people who have done it in a simple way, here is an assignment for you. please, I mean, do it and show me on the next class, or you can even, I mean, mail me, doesn't matter. So the task is this code, this program. In this program, please write a function to which you should pass the value of number from main, and that function should return you the reverse number. Then you should print the reverse number in main and write another function that checks. So the name of the function can be is palindrome, something like that. You send the same number num to that function, and that function should, I mean, return 0 or 1. 0 means it is not a palindrome, 1 means it is a palindrome. So you see that when you write is palindrome, you should call the other function, that is, I mean, reverse. So the is palindrome should, so to is palindrome you pass num. So is palindrome will call reverse and pass that number to reverse. So reverse will actually reverse that number and send it back to palindrome. The palindrome will check if the reverse number is equal to the original number. If it is equal, then it will, I mean, return 1. Otherwise, it will return 0. Please try to write this. Since you already know the logic of this program, it should be easy for you to write, but I will give you one example. I will give you an example. So, okay, I need to open this. All right. For function, right? Function. Where is it? Okay, let me check. No, not this one. Okay, let me see. Functions. Yeah, this one, I think. And there is one clarification that why I am asking you to do I mean, documentation, write-ups. You must be thinking that, I mean, why is this necessary at all? So why this extra trouble? The reason is to become a professional programmer, you must be knowing how to do this. It's not about only writing the code. You must be able to write in your own words the logic of the code. That is for your own good also. This is a very good practice, and documentation actually makes a program, I mean, readable to you when you look at it some 5 years down the line. And also programming doesn't make sense to the common man, right? Programming needs to be done for professional purposes. So for professional purposes, without documentation, that piece of code is useless to a person who is going to use it and to whom it has been delivered. So I agree that in all my codes, I myself don't do enough documentation because I mean, explaining it to you, right? So I am explaining it to you here. But suppose if I would have given you this code, then I would have put enough documentation for you to be able to understand. So this is a code which calculates a plus b to the power of n using binomial expansion. So I discussed this while generating a form by generating the pattern which I discussed last class. So it's Pascal's triangle. So it's so it is like this. So the formula a plus b to the power of n. So I think n has to be an integer here. N has to be an integer, positive integer. For 0 it is trivial, right? N has to be a positive integer, and I don't think there is any condition for a and b. I mean, they should be in real numbers. I mean, this doesn't work for the complex numbers. Even if it works, so I'm not discussing that in details here. So the formula is like this: NCR into a to the power of n minus r into b to the power of r. So this is, I mean, this is the rth expression. So it is like this: nc0 a to the power of n minus 0 b to the power of 0 plus nc1 into a to the power of n minus 1 b to the power of 1, like this, dot 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 ncn a to the power of n minus n, that is a to the power of 0 b to the power of n. So it is a summation of this. So in order to do this summation, what do I need to do? I need to calculate NCR, right? NCR. Pow is a function. So this is not user defined. So this you can borrow from math.h, but you have to calculate this one, right? NCR. So I am calling this function NCR. So this is a function NCR. So it takes n and r. So it is, so what is NCR? It is factorial n divided by factorial r into factorial n minus r. So this is calculating NCR and it is returning its value. But how to calculate factorial? So it is NCR, this function calls factorial. So it is simple enough, right? So it is 1. So for factorial n, it is 1 into 2 dot 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 n minus 1 into n. So it is calculating fact and it is returning it to NCR. So you calculate NCR and you come back to this point where you know this value, and you know this value. So you can calculate the rth component of that sum. So you do this sum for r equal to 0 to n. And you can also do this, I mean, explicitly, right? A plus b to the power of n. So you can also do this, a plus b to the power of n. So I have done this for a equals to 4, b equals to 6, and n equals to 3. So it should be how much? 10 cube, 1000, right? So I have done it using binomial expansion. I have done it using power of sum. So this is for explicit calculation. This is for calculation using binomial expansion. So let's run this code. So you see that for binomial expansion, the answer is 1000. And for explicit calculation, it is also 1000. So the code is correct. So this you should study. This is something you should study. And next class, I repeat, we will start with this discussion. Please write a program which will define a function, which will contain a function that takes num as an argument and returns rev. Okay, and there will another function that takes num as input and it returns 1 if it is a palindrome and 0 if it is not. So this we will do in the next class. So that will be your first lesson for really meaningful modular programming. And I hope it will be interesting for the people who are doing it for the first time. For the people who already know about this, maybe it will be redundant. So there's 5 minutes left. So let me get started with what I plan to do in the next class. So I am going to talk about the stack data structure, the next class, and something about stack, and I'm going to explain how stack is useful in function call, and then we will move into recursion if time permits. Let's see in the next class. So we will be moving towards formal data structure and algorithms because that needs to be done also. But I will cover more, stacks, separately. So this is because this is an important application of stack. So I thought that it will be opportune for me to introduce stack at this point of time. That we will do in the next class.